WealthUniversity.org is a video-based e-learning platform for those who want their wealth knowledge to take off. Our research shows that the wealth mindset is the single most important aspect of creating and sustaining wealth. Test your wealth IQ and challenge friends and family to find out theirs. Acquire the thinking, secrets, habits, and proven success strategies used by the world's wealthiest investors, as well as that of our global community, who aren't just talking about it, but are actually creating it. Graduate and change your destiny and your future.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to our April Wealthy Wednesday. Thank you for joining us today and sharing the next hour to hour and a half with us. Joining me tonight is Scott, and we are going to be speaking about the life cycle of a real estate investor. But we also have two special guests with us. Rudy and Shane are joining us, and Scott will give you a little bit more info around that a little bit later. As always, I am going to be in the back end, making sure that everyone answers your questions and your comments. But we would love to find out where you're coming from. We have had over 300 people register for tonight, and we'd really love to know which corners of the world you are coming from. For me personally, I am still in Saudi Arabia. Next time you hear from me, I will be coming to you from Costa Rica, but for now, it is still the sandpit in Saudi Arabia. Over to you, Scott. Where are you coming from and joining from us tonight?
Good question. I am in a farm outside George. Easter week when the son is on holiday is a little bit of a challenge. I've driven all the way from Cape Town this morning, had meetings with John Robbie, which I look forward to sharing with you later. But it certainly has been a fun full day and a huge amount of energy. So I'm asking the community to bring all the energy, engagement, ask as many questions as they can, because no one has an excuse to be slightly tighter than I am after a really long day. But I am really looking forward to tonight. It is one of my more favorite things to discuss. And I think more importantly, I'm super excited about sharing our two guests and what they've got in store for our visitors tonight.
Awesome. Rudy, where are you joining us from tonight?
I'm from Pretoria, in Gauteng, so in South Africa.
Great. Thank you for joining us. And Shane?
Hi, everyone. Yep, I'm coming from hometown Johannesburg in South Africa.
Thank you very much for joining us, guys. We look forward to hearing from you later on in the webinar. I see that we have got people that have joined us from Zim, from Botswana, from Swaziland. We've got a whole plethora of people who are joining us from all corners of the world. So thank you very much for being with us tonight. Let's not waste any more time. We will bring the energy. Scott is going to find his after his long day, and we're going to get tonight rolling. Over to you, Scott.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Lee. So let's rock and roll. We did a webinar on this last year. And funny enough, it's a model that I created back in 2005 in London when I was trying to help shareholders and investors understand, the life cycle of a property investor, or some would call it a real estate investor. We are going to look at the life cycle of a real estate investor, the wealth spectrum, and how to use the personalized investor test to create freedom, fun, and the impact you want in your life. Now, what's really, really important for me in terms of this is that I can't redo this presentation from scratch because it's really based on the fundamentals. And so what I believe is quite important is that tonight we're going to be evolving it, we're going to be adapting it, we're going to be building on top of it. But at the end of the day, the fundamentals remain the same. And I do believe that unless you're doing all of this in your life, then repetition is the mother of skill. Sometimes we can know something, but we don't necessarily do it. So the question that I wanted to start with today, and I think it's quite important basically, is what are you doing to become a global citizen? And I think this is really, really relevant, okay? Because I literally sat today with John Robbie. If you do or don't know who John Robbie is, he's probably one of the most successful developers in the country. He built in South Africa, he built Century City, he was part of the V&A waterfront, he built Westlake, he built the Radisson and Greenpoint. There's very few things that icons in Cape Town that he wasn't actually part of. And the question he was asking is two different questions. What are investors doing? Why is he starting to invest around the world rather than just, developing in Cape Town? And secondly, are you ready for the next 5 years? And, the question I would have for everyone, and it's a question I've asked before, but if you sincerely look at it, if you look at all the changes and everything that's happening, and the fact that Jamie Dimon came out and said that banking is changing around the world, everything that's happening in cryptocurrency and the crypto space, and the whole digitization, are you ready? And I'd love to know what people think. Okay, so I don't see any comments coming through. I don't know if you've lost the comment button, but I want to basically, because I think this is a sincere question that we need to ask each other. So let's look at a framework. And I think this is really important. I believe that having watched investors for over 20 years invest from 5 different continents, there's 6 different things that they need. The first one is belief. Okay, so I fundamentally believe that you can do nothing in the world unless you actually have belief. As Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right either way. The second is knowledge. The third is access and investment. The fourth is a system. The fifth is support and accountability. And the sixth is results, wealth, and freedom. Now, what's interesting is that this is not a linear curve. The best way to describe it is that it's an upward cycle that's going up and up and up. So the more wealth and freedom you get, the more belief you get, the more knowledge you get, the more access and investment you make, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And what we're going to look at tonight is a number of things that we've created to provide you with tools, to provide you with each one of the steps towards these 6 steps in terms of a framework. The second thing that I wanted to talk about was, you've heard me say this many times before, but a bird flying in a flock can fly 70% further than a bird flying on its own. And this is really, really important, because you can choose to do it on your own, or you can use the 21st principles and the laws of nature and do it with others, which means you can go a lot further, a lot more effectively, and with a lot less effort. Deepak Chopra came out with some research where he said, if you do something on your own, you've got less than a 50% chance of succeeding. If you do it with a coach, with a partner, like a husband or wife, a business partner, a friend, you've got about a 60% chance of succeeding. If you do it in a mental group, aligned mental group, you've got over a 70% chance of succeeding. And so again, my philosophy in life is just to try and hack life, literally to try and find the fastest, easiest way to success. And the research is out there to help you. And that's why we created the Wealth Inner Circle, which was a combination of our community, of our education, of our investments, and of our purpose. And really, for me, this is quite important in terms of the philosophy of all 4 of them. And over the years, we created these different systems. So we got the eWealth Pack, which has about $5,000 worth of research. It's got the WealthE test, which has the wealth quotient, and I'm going to go into this in more detail tonight. It then came out with the wealth, the actual test, the investor test. And what it allowed you to do was to actually find a personalized way to know exactly where you were in the path. And then it would provide you with a PDF report, which was like this. And if you see at the top here, you've got the Freedom, Fun, and Impact Index. On the right-hand side, you've got the wealth spectrum. At the bottom, you've got passive income. And on the left-hand side, you've got the life cycle of a real estate investor. Now, what's interesting tonight is that a lot of people don't see how these all come together. They're multi-dimensional paradigms which are sitting on top of each other. And people need to be able to understand them. Depending on where you sit, because all of us are in a personalized zone, that this person, with regards to the investment quotient, you can see that they are sitting between 60 to 80. So when they went to the PDF report, it was pretty easy. They would be between the 60 to 80, and it would give them, what should they do both within the mindset and within the knowledge space. What I'm really excited about is that that's in a very static format. And so although it creates a personalized path, it's in a static format, but yet the world changes. Most of us can't act to a photograph. We're all actually part of a movie. Our lives are happening on an ongoing basis. We created the 8 steps to wealth, and I'm going to go through this in more detail tonight because it's important. And if you go to the eWealth Pack, and there's the link, and I don't know, Lee, if you want to put that link into the chat box for people, but you can actually go and download the eWealth Pack. It is a gift We like to give gifts for people who are attend these webinars live and or watch the recording. Then we created the GPS. Now, if you look at a GPS, what is a GPS? Like, there's 3 stages to a GPS. I used a GPS today to get from Cape Town to George. And what does it do? The very first thing it does is figure out where you are. Then it figures out where you want to get to. And then ultimately it helps you, it figures out where you are. You tell it where you want to get to, and then it helps you figure out how to get from A to B. That's how a GPS works. Well, our Wealth GPS is no different. You need to know where you are. So tonight, the most important principle is where are you as an individual. Secondly, you need to decide where you want to get to. And thirdly, the systems and the frameworks actually help you get from A to B. And these are all the principles that we bring in and have been talking about now for nearly 2 years around the Wealth 5.0 and the whole concept of Wealth 5.0 and how important it is between impact, creativity, high touch, high tech, and digital. Now, tonight, many of these different principles, Lee, I've actually done, and for those of you online, I've done entire webinars around each one of these principles. Tonight, I don't have the time to go into each one in detail, although every one of these webinars are recorded. If you want to do an entire webinar on Wealth 5.0, you can actually go and watch the webinar. But what I'm excited to do tonight is to share with you our first guest. And that guest is Shane Ferreira. Shane has been part of the team since about 2019. He's actually helped build a lot of the functionality and the technology behind what we are doing. And Shane and I sat back in December last year, and we had a very interesting conversation at our team function where he said, Scott, when I look at the Wealth University, it's time to take it to the next level. And I really want to jump in, kind of boots and all. And what I love about different human beings is that some people talk and some people do. And by the time we came back after Christmas, Shane was like, let me show you where I think that the Wealth University can go and the value that we can add. And so it's with a huge amount of honor and excitement that Shane has actually agreed with our board to really take the Wealth University to the next level as one of our business partners. You can actually sign up. There's a link below there. And again, we'll put this in the chat box for you. I'm going to stop sharing now because this is going to be a view into the future of what we're going to be doing at the Wealth University. And everything that I've just shown you, which has been very static, and think of it like a picture, is going to be in a movie format, which will make it even more personalized for you and allow you to really be fully engaged. And so over to you, Shane. It's wonderful to have you on board as a business partner, and more exciting to be able to share what you've been doing with our community.
Thanks, Scott. And before we can go into the future, I just wanted to go back into the past to tell a little story of actually when we met and where this journey all started. So luckily I found this picture on the web. So it was back in December 2010 on a farm called Shumbos. We were attending a wealth weekend by Hannes Strayer, and this was the first time I had made a big investment into myself. I think it was about 5 or 6 years prior to that. I was miserable in a job, and somebody suggested to me, like, why don't I read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad? And I read that book, and that book gave me the belief that there was more. And I went out and I bought all the books in the Rich Dad series. I read all of those. I went and bought more books. I bought courses. I did all the Tony Robbins content. I just went on, and then ended up attending this wealth weekend. And I remember it was something like 20,000 Rand for the weekend, which was quite a big investment for me back then. And that's where I met you, and you and I were sitting right next to each other. And it was such an incredible weekend. I remember Hannes went deep into the belief systems, the mindset, goal setting, and it's just like so much knowledge and information. And by the end of the weekend, we're leaving, and there was this little ceremony, and they've got this bridge. So around the conference center, there's it's like a lake or dam around the conference center, and they've got this bridge, and they called this bridge the bridge to financial freedom. And as I was crossing this bridge, I remember feeling a huge amount of excitement, but also a massive amount of overwhelm. And was because there was just like so much information that I learned that weekend. And I actually spent the next few days going through all the workbooks and going through all the notes that I'd taken. And I realized that there was a lot of information that I had that I couldn't apply to my life right away where I was at that point. I had to figure out what information that I could take right now and use for the to take on my very next step. And if you think about it, that's kind of what's happening in the world today. So there's so much information out there. We've got unlimited access to information. We pick up our phone, Google something, you've got it. But the problem is it's not all applicable to where you are, to your journey right now. And that's essentially where the Wealth University 5.0 comes in. I remember the biggest problem that you've brought up in terms of Wealth Migrate is that we've got so much content, but what do we do with all this content, and is it even relevant? So I started going through all this content, and that's where I, started feeling that same overwhelm that I did back 10 years ago. And that's when we decided that the Wealth University 5.0 needs to help students figure out where they are and guide them from that point. Not only providing them with content and the next steps, but also to give them a feedback loop so that we can figure out and understand what are their biggest problems and try help them solve that. So whether that be creating solutions, creating content, or finding authorities that can create content to help solve these problems. So I just want to give you a quick demo of what the Wealth University platform is going to look like. This is just kind of a sneak peek. So it's very much a social kind of platform. You'll see it looks very similar to the likes of Facebook, where you register, you create your profile, you update your information, and once you're in, you get access to a sort of a activity feed or like a Facebook wall where all the information that's relevant for you will be coming up on this wall. We'll also be like posting all our blogs and information and articles around the articles that we send out. But essentially what you need, just like Facebook and the social groups, you can go in and find people that you want to follow and connect with. You can private message them. But what you actually want to do as you get started is do the WealthE test. So this is the test that helps the system figure out where you are. And once you do the test, you'll get your results. Scott shared this graph earlier, but once you've done this test, the system kind of knows where you are and then can start mapping out your next steps. So this is just a sort of like a demo of what it could look like, where step one, go and do this course.
Can I just jump in here, Shane?
Sure.
So why this gets so exciting for me is that the current investor test gives you a report that's 26 pages long, and it's a hell of a lot of information and quite frankly very overwhelming. A couple of thousand people have done it and given us feedback, and it hasn't achieved the results that we wanted, which was really giving people that personalized path. And the way you've done it now is that it's completely interactive, and it literally shows up what's relevant to that person. And kind of takes them on the journey. So the way I see it's a bit like university. There's thousands of courses you can do out there, but when you do a degree, it's kind of like do this, do this, do this. So it kind of helps you, map out that path.
Exactly, and this page is very personalized to the user that's logged in. So if Scott logs in and goes to this page, he will see different things because his path is completely different. So just to give you an idea, these are the steps that you could take. Go listen to the Wealth Insights, go read Think and Grow Rich, read the Tony Robbins books, join the groups. So we've got groups within the system as well. So if you want to go and interact on a specific topic, you can go and join the groups that are relevant to the information that you enjoy. So let's say, for example, I'm just going to jump into the teaching group. So you can see very similar to Facebook information. People post ideas, comments. You can comment on those, And then also groups can be linked to courses and vice versa. So if you think about doing a course, let's say you're doing one of these courses and you get stuck or you've got questions or whatever, we'll have groups tied to a specific course so that you can go in and maybe ask questions, share information, get more from the people that are actually doing that course. Which kind of helps you go through that course if you have any questions or concerns. And then, of course, the most exciting bit is we're rolling this all into an Apple and Android app so that you can get this information and access to everything directly from your phone. And Scott, I don't even know if I've told you this yet, but we're working on a feature where that you can actually download a course to have it stored on your phone so that while you're on the Wi-Fi at home, you can download the entire course. And then, if you're out on the road or sitting at the bank or whatever the case is, you can actually go through that content without using your mobile data or anything like that. So yeah, that's a quick sneak peek of the system.
Shane, I'm firstly very excited to share it with people. I'd love to know people's comments. I also know that you've only touched the tip of the iceberg because you've done a lot deeper of a sneak peek to some of the shareholders. I know you shared with Hilda for the Women in Wealth, and it's things like engagement indexes and buttons and groups and even possibly cryptocurrency with time or certainly tokenization, etc. So there's so many different levels of what's going on here. And really, if you think about Wealth University and its first version, the reason that we've actually evolved this through to Wealth University version 5 and launch is because it ties in with all the principles of Wealth 5.0, Society 5.0, Investor 5.0, etc. And so I'm super excited. Just to remind you there, Lee has put a link in the chat box. If you're watching the recording, you can see it. It'll be down below. And I think actually if I share my screen back quickly, I'm just going to steal the screen back. Oh, you need to stop sharing, Shane.
Okay.
So let me just steal the screen back. And if I go back to my screen, then I thought mine had the link on. Clearly it doesn't.
Switch to your slide.
I've gone to the live one. Anyway, there's my slide back with the link. Go to the link. Go and sign up. We're not telling you when we're launching because we'll launch when we're ready. But for those of you that are the early birds, we will certainly let you know. And I've got another guest, Rudy, that's coming up just now. And I've also got a gift for you, which I highly recommend you do not want to miss out on. Now, why is this important? Well, you can go along to the Wealth Migrate marketplace. And again, I know today, Lee, that you guys actually did a webinar at lunchtime. Do you want to just talk to how people can get that recording? Because the way that we separate these up is that the lunchtime webinar is about deals. I know that Fritz and Gabby actually did those today, talking about Marvilla and what we're doing in Portugal. And you can see here I'm on the marketplace talking about McFarlane. And today people literally have the opportunity to invest from $97. And then now you can get into Portugal. Everyone's been asking about getting into Euro investments. Well, it's now finally available. And this is with John Robbie, literally one of the top 5 most successful developers in South Africa. This is his 4th development in Portugal. He's got a very big and sophisticated team in Portugal. And they actually sold 100 million euros in one day. To put in perspective of the demand. And, rather than buying retail from him, you can actually invest alongside him. And we specifically have organized a deal which is exclusive to our platform, which is a combination of MES and equity, which means that people are getting an income while also getting the capital growth. Normally, if you do MES debt, you only get an income, no capital growth. If you only do equity, you only get capital growth and no income. We found the balance. I don't know, Lee, if you're there and wanted to share with people how they'll be able to get that recording, because I don't want to repeat what we went through at lunchtime today.
Yeah, absolutely, Scott. So as everybody knows, we do record all of our webinars. These will be sent out via email and posted onto all our groups tomorrow. They are also uploaded to our YouTube channel. I'll pop the link to our YouTube channel into the chat box as well. And those will be available for you to watch at your leisure again tomorrow.
Perfect. And again, just remembering that on WealthE Wednesday, we always drop the minimum on one of the deals. So today this deal's at $97. If you haven't funded your wallet, you don't get to play. It's just the way the world works. So anyway, and then that's what our wallets are about. So make sure that you are prepared. You never know when the next deal's coming up and what it'll be on WealthE Wednesday. That's why we do it, so that everyone gets to participate. I also highly recommend talking with our wealth consultants, both Fritz and Alex. Let them help you. We always say we're a digital platform with a human heart. These are the authorities in terms of being able to talk to them. They can hold your hand. I like to think of it like a private banking relationship where you can actually deal with them and they can help you understand the process and what's happening on the platform. So I want to get practical in terms of tonight's lesson. I am going to watch the time. I do get a little bit excited when I get into this stuff because I do really, really enjoy it. So let's look at your wealthy journey, okay? And the reason that it's wealth with an E is that we believe that it's all about the electronic engagement. You can come up energy, whatever E's you want to use, or even e-commerce. But it's effectively the new age of wealth with an E. Now, this is a slide, and I interesting enough, you could say to me, Scott, why don't you update your slides? I actually built this slide in 2005, and I wanted to share with you why I don't update the slide. And the simple principle is because I can't believe that 15 or 16 years later, how similar it actually is. So if you look on the left here, you've got learning curve, and at the bottom, you've got financial independence, freedom, and abundance. If you take the life cycle of a property investor, you've pretty much got birth, then you've got infancy, toddler, teenager, young adult, maturity, midlife evaluation, golden years, legacy. And or life can go the wrong way, aging, and death. Now, if you look at a human being, the reason that I did this and mapped it out exactly like a human being is that every single one of us is going through the cycle. Whether we like it or not, this is the cycle. And, this midlife evaluation, some of our lives go up and some of our lives go down and go back to pretty much where we started. So let's look at this as a parallel metaphor for a property investor. At the birth stage, you're leaving home, you're renting, you start earning, so you got your first job, you can save a little, you go on a course, you start walking the streets, and most people do very little. That, as Shane kind of used his story already, of some of the overwhelm, even in trying to get started, reading the books, etc. Then you got the infancy, you buy your first house, you have plenty of fear, you struggle with the purchase, you struggle with understanding the process, you waste lots of money, you often don't buy very well, it depends on the information, you're very close to cash flow death, tough to survive, and often ask for support from parents. It's quite interesting. I was doing this today in the car, and my girlfriend in the car, we were talking about it, and she's got one property, and I said, well, which stage are you? And I would say infancy. And she said, yep, no, that resonates quite a lot. Then you look at toddler, and it's the first one is working, and so you get some confidence and you buy another one. You have no systems. Okay, now remember what you're going to come across now tonight when we talk about Rudy in terms of systems. You have cash flow issues, you've got less than 5 properties, you focus on capital growth. Remember, the middle class investors and professionals focus on capital growth, whereas wealthy people focus on income, and you have no structures in place. Then as a teenager, you have problems getting finance, you focus on cash flow because you realize banks only lend against cash flow. You start to attend courses, you build business plans, you start thinking financially. Again, remember what you're going to see with Rudy's systems. You start to think laterally to succeed. You start doing partnerships. You meet tax and structuring experts. You start building a team, and you also start exploring international property and or commercial property. Then you go to a young adult. You start using the capital growth that you've got in your portfolio. You buy your first international property, which is cash flow positive. You buy your first commercial property, which is cash flow positive. They're all in structures. You keep buying properties, but only if they're cash flow positive. You have a working formula which you replicate, and you have the systems to make sure you can replicate that, and you have a team. Then you get to maturity. And this is where the banks view you as a sophisticated investor. You can leverage your assets to gain more properties. You have a reliable team, deals come to you, you have great cash flow, time consuming with individual investments. So you still find the individual investments very time consuming, and you're looking at doing bigger deals in consortiums. Then you go to your midlife evaluation. It's very time consuming and wonder if you should sell and consolidate. You had enough of all the hassle. You've got great cash flow. You maintain what you have or move to aging. So you maintain what you got or you move to aging and or you move to your golden years. And in the golden years, so let's go positive to first, it's the zone of knowledge. You're investing globally with the best of breed partners to achieve maximum returns. You need to work with younger, energetic players, and you leverage knowledge, assets, resources to take advantage of the opportunities. And I talk here about the 84-year-old that came to me and was a highly successful business person, and he invested 100 million rand, which was at the time about $10 million in Australia, and really took advantage of knowledge, assets, and resources, even at the age of 84, to keep creating opportunities. Then the legacy, which is the zone of fulfillment and contribution. This is living in financial freedom. It's contributing to society. It's passing on the inheritance to people close to you. So it's effective generational wealth. That's the positive side. The other side is aging. Most of the mortgages are interest only. You can't remortgage because the bank don't lend to older people. You start selling off the assets and you're living off the cash flow. And then, sometimes people go from toddler straight to aging, which is where they skip all the nice parts that we've already mentioned. And then you finally go to death, which is where the property is passed on in your personal name to people in the will. There's large death duties which leave those who receive the property, and often they can't afford them, and so they sell. And so the wealth is actually dissipated. And I use the story of my family story, the McIntoshes. We owned a lot of the property up and down Field Street, which is the main street in Durban. We owned property all the way to the Umgani River. And yet when I don't know how many generations ago died, it was all with bad estate planning. The family couldn't afford to keep it, sold it off to pay the estate duties, and the rest is history. So what I find really interesting, and I invite Shane and Lee to comment on this quickly, is that these slides were created in 2005. And when you look at what's been created through IPS, through Wealth Migrate, through the Wealth University, and now recently with Private Wealth Global, can you see how we've been trying to create systems to help people all the way through this process? And again, why I don't update these slides is to show people that back in 2005, realizing the need for what needed to be changed over the time. Now, my only regret is it's taken us 15 years, but I'm very, very grateful that people today can solve this a lot quicker than doing it on their own. And I don't know, Lee or Shane, what your thoughts are, because what truly excites me is that people can literally do this, which is go from birth through to legacy a hell of a lot quicker now using technology and basically having the right information and the right partners. And I'd love your thoughts on what I just said.
Yeah, absolutely. Scott, as you know, I have got a elder teenage son, and I equate this to when we tried to show him an olden day telephone, one of those ones where you had to speak into the microphone and you had to turn it, and he looked at it in a museum and went, what the hell is that? Because he's grown up in the age of cell phones and having all the information at his fingertips, and how quickly it is to communicate and to move forward and to grow. And that's exactly what we have been creating here, is to give the information and the processes and have everything in place so that you can actually grow and scale quickly. So it's very exciting to have seen the journey from where you came from 15 years ago. I have only been part of it since 2016, along for the ride with the Wealth Migrate and Global Wealth team. But it is phenomenal to see the leaps and bounds that have happened since then.
Yeah, and I think what's exciting, Lee, is that, this is not about me, it's about our team. And it's about our community that have allowed this to happen. And, with what Shane shared, and I'm still excited, and I don't want to keep going because I want to share with what Rudy's got to share, is that, people can go back and they can try and figure this all out themselves, and they can literally go through all the steps I just shared. And, I could write another entire book on what to do at every step, or you could kind of follow the simple digital journey now, and you can go from A to B a hell of a lot easier and cut out a lot of these very difficult steps, basically. The next question I get asked often is, how do you deal with uncertainty? We're dealing with COVID at the moment, and there was a gentleman called Ian Fife that was very kind to me in my younger years, and he wrote for the Financial Mail, the property section, and he answered the question to me, how do you deal with uncertainty? He said, through knowledge, by concentrating on the actual realities of the market we operate in. An index is a theoretical figure. A transaction is concrete and specific. If you know how property actually works, we know that it remains the biggest store of wealth in the world for ordinary people. That is so because it remains the most predictable and conservative of asset classes, and it is more often than not a home too. So we then created this framework, which was the 8 steps to wealth, and it's effectively a micro degree. And before I go there, I want to share with you another little gift, which was the 12 lessons that wealthy people are taught that the 99% are not. The first is focus on income generating assets. The second is don't lose money. The third is asymmetric risk reward. The fourth is tax efficiency. The fifth is diversification across assets, within assets, across markets, currencies, and time. The sixth is the fundamentals of investment, real estate, and business don't change. The seventh is you can have anything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. Appreciation is the key to happiness. Your mind creates your destiny and your life, nurture it. Chaos is your best friend. In chaos, there's opportunity. To risk nothing is to risk everything, and be constantly learning. We call that our wealth code. And for anyone that signs up to the launch of the new Wealth University platform, you will get an email with the wealth code as a gift. And again, these are just the lessons I've learned from watching the wealthiest people. If you want to go into all 12 of these, there is a webinar, and you can reach out to Lee and the team. We have actually done an entire webinar on these 12 points. So let's look at the 8 steps. Now, it's interesting, Shane, and I'd love you to give us feedback here. The current investor test is on at investortest.geniusu.com. However, I am aware that, as Shane just said, with the new interactive version, and again, the PDF that you get on that investor test has not been updated since 2018. I know because I wrote it and it hasn't been updated. And so Shane and I are going to be working on the interactive one. So if you want to do the old one, it's available. That's the link. If you want to do the new one, it'll be coming out with the launch. And again, I would recommend signing up to that link that Shane and I have already shared. Then you've got step 2, which is the 5 pillars to wealth and your wealthy spectrum. And this is really, it's about your what, or your IQ, it's your investment quotient. It's step number 1. You can see it's on the right-hand side here. Then you move over here to your how. It's your systems quotient. So again, when you look at both the Wealth Migrate platform and you look at what Rudy's about to share tonight, this is all about your systems. Then it's your who are you connected to? Did you have a meeting with John Robbie today? Do you have access to the best opportunities in England, Australia, America, Europe, South Africa, etc.? And I'm not saying that I'm clever by meeting with John Robbie. Please, I'm not. I'm just saying that by having a platform and by us having the power of community, we get access to the best opportunities in the world. Then it's the when. Timing is everything in markets. Anyone that tells you London's a good investment and it's been a good investment for 20 years is lying, because there's good times to invest and there's bad times. I'm not picking on London. It could be America. It could be the US dollar. It could be medical. It could be multifamily. It could be industrial properties. There's good times and there's bad times. There's good times for retail. There's bad times for retail. And then finally, you got your why and your purpose quotient. And it all ends up being your WQ, which is your wealth quotient. Now, when you do that and it comes out on the test, it gives you your area. Now, then you need to go to your wealthy journey. And this is an interesting one for me because I don't have time to go into this tonight. Again, we did an entire webinar on this around goals, but I do feel very passionate about goals. And why I say this is because I believe that there's a great saying by Vincent van der Gogh that says, he dreamed his painting and then he painted his dream. And I always like to just share this picture with you. Now, this is my my desktop. I, to this day, have a desktop like this where I have my goals, both annual and quarterly goals, and then pictures that look at me. And for me, I wanted to buy a boat when I got to Knysna. So you can see this is 2013. I wanted to buy a boat, and I went and found a picture of a boat that I liked on Google, and I literally put it on my desktop. And about 8 months later, I went to go and buy a boat. And the guy said to me, listen, Scott, there's nothing you can do. We sold out until March. This was like November, March the next year. I mean, there's no point in missing out on the entire summer. And he said, but I do have one coming on consignment. So you can have first option on it, but you can't change anything. There's not a single thing you can change on the boat because it's all been decided. So this is the picture that I found on Google. There you can see it highlighted. This is that same picture just blown up. And this is the picture of the boat. Literally look at the coloring. It's exactly the same coloring, exactly the same. If you look at the back, look at the back, look at the front, and look at the front. It's like, it's so freaky how exactly the same this was. And so be very careful that you go out there and you dream your painting and then you create your dream. And some of the books to read on this are Think and Grow Rich and Awaken the Giant Within, which are all in the eWealth pack and are excellent books in the space. The other one I enjoy is The One Thing, which keeps you focused on getting stuff done. And there's a lot there on goal planning. You know, this is, as I said, we did a whole webinar on this, so I'm not going to go through this. But I mean, this is some stuff that I learned from Chet Holmes and Tony Robbins and all around goal setting and what you can or can't do with regards to goal settings, why they're so important. My father taught me men become what they dream big. And, you know, that's my question to you is, you know, what are you doing? What are your goals? And these are some of the systems that I created over my life. You know, I have SMART goals that I break down to the life, to the year, to the quarter, to the week, to the day. These are I then break it down into 7 different things. Again, there's a whole webinar on this where you can go through how I do this. I then break it down. So these are my life goals. You can see, you know, right through to 2037. Then it's my, and it actually goes on further. Then you've got your SMART goals, which are your annual goals. Then you break it down into your quarterly goals. And then, you know, one of the concepts I learned from Roger Hamilton is about writing your future vision, which is really, really quite exciting. And then even having a vision board. And I've already today shared with you my vision board. And then the last thing that I've brought in the last couple of years is the daily routine. And I know Lee runs this, where the whole idea was to, you know, we do these 60-day challenges and actually setting goals. And Lee, I haven't communicated this with you, but after this Easter weekend and a whole bunch of other things, I'm definitely going to be starting a new challenge on Friday, again, to get healthy, etc. But, you know, it's just amazing what you can achieve if you get a good morning routine in terms of the process. And then, you know, step number 4 is your flight path. So think of it like an airplane. You've decided where you want to go. You've set your goals. You're sitting in Sydney and you want to get to London. But you need to agree, okay, well, I'm going from Sydney to London. And you need to have a flight path. And, you know, what I do with this is I use a coach. So my coach, one of the coaches I use is Richard Neft. He is really, really valuable. And one of the things that I highly recommend, if I show you here, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it quickly, sorry, I forgot to open this up, is that if I go in and I go to my coaching and I go to February last year. And what's really interesting is you get an entire report on where you are and what are your PDDs, which are your personal driving dynamics. So you can see here, like, so again, on the flight, like this is what you're good at. So things like personal development, results orientation. I don't have time again to go into this, but what I'm trying to show you is that this isn't done by fluke. You know, there's actually a whole game plan here. And then what Richard helps me do, I do a coaching session with them every single week, and we break it down into 100-day plans, which is pretty much the quarter. And when any American president starts, they look at the first 100 days. And so if you're wanting, you know, Tony Robbins says, you know, many people overestimate what they can achieve in a year and underestimate what they can achieve in 10 years. So you need to know where you want to get to in 10 years. And then you've got to break it down into a year and then ultimately into a quarter, and then even down to, you know, what are you doing in the next week and the next 30 days. So these are all really important in terms of how to actually succeed. And, you know, my principle was, we've got Wealth 5.0, we've got Investor 5.0, we've got Society 5.0. Why shouldn't I have Scott 5.0 in terms of where I want to be over the next 5 years? And I'm actually working with Richard Neft on this. I've got a coaching session tomorrow as an example, where I go through my 100-day plan, and there's 3 different areas that I'm working on, which are my big, hairy, audacious goals. But what I wanted to share with you is that one of the things that I realized was that we basically, I've over the many, many years, and Shane mentioned Dr. Hannes Dreyer, Dr. Dolph de Roos, and many others. I've seen a bunch of calculators over the time. And the thing that frustrated me with these calculators is they were all bespoke and they were all fairly relevant to what that individual taught, but they weren't a great system in terms of your overall well-being and where you're at. And then the last thing is they weren't dynamic. And so what was really interesting to me is that Fritz introduced me to Rudy about a year ago. And Rudy said that, look, he'd been working on a system for a number of years, taking the best of breed from all the different places to be able to help him solve his own personal need. And then I shared with him, because my attitude is that your intellectual property is worth nothing if it's not actually being used by people. So I shared with him, the different systems that I'd built, like the GPS and all the different systems we've used to try and do due diligence. And what Rudy's done is actually integrate all of these into a system that he's called WealthPro. And I've got a lot to share with you, but I don't want to steal Rudy's thunder. And so, Rudy, I wanted to hand over to you. I'd love you just to explain your story of why you started creating this. And then, once you've shared it with everyone, I'm going to share with people how they can actually start to use this. I'll stop sharing.
Thank you, Scott. You put a lot of pressure on me because you mentioned my name so many times during the presentation. Okay, so the reason why I set up this system.
Pressure is my second name.
Yeah, the reason why I set up this specific system, I love to develop systems. It basically gives me an edge, if I can put it like that. I'm not into competition with others, but I'm in competition with myself the whole time. So I like to develop stuff, learn extra, as much as I can. But then about 8 years ago, my first son was born, and then your whole universe changes from you being the center of the universe to to the little kid now. So when my son was born, then I thought, okay, well, I've learned a lot of stuff, but I need to, it's now my responsibility to move that info and the experience over to the kids one day. And the only way to do that is by using a system that is simple to use, it's not confusing, and that will give them an edge one day. So I developed this system based as simple as I could, but it's very powerful. So if I quickly run through it, it basically it's divided into two parts. There's this WealthPro section, and then I've got a property, or at least a real estate analysis system, because I'm heavily into property. I think that was when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, many years ago. He was into property. He was saying that's basically the best investment, and I was still young back then, so I said, okay, well, if he's successful, then I need to do that. And if I was going to get into property and I just got out of school, how am I going to do it? And if I can't get into the property immediately, at least I need to figure out how this works, and if I can develop a system, because there were systems around, but they didn't tell me what I needed to know. And for me to understand these things, I had to do a lot of research, a lot of development, checking, back testing, that type of stuff. So in the first section, this is basically a dashboard of your wealth. Wealth for me is...
Sorry, just share your screen. Really, we're not seeing it yet.
Oh, is it not shared? Sorry.
Just by the way, while Rudy's bringing that up, he did say that he needs about 3 days to explain how the whole system works. And I said, look, tonight's a teaser, but we will make sure that we have time to go into in detail at another point.
Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yep, we got it.
All right. Okay. So basically, the whole system brings in a whole bunch of fundamentals, wealth fundamentals, calculations that are not simple to get, but they are available if you dig deep enough. So I put the system together basically for myself, my family, and my kids, until I showed it to you, and then you said, okay, well, you need access to this. So, okay, so what we have here is the dashboard. The dashboard tells you your financial health score. Wealth for me is not only about money, it's about time and how long can you survive on your money should something go wrong. So if you lose your job, if anything happens, medically, okay, so financially, medically, if anything should happen, how long can you live off of your assets? And that will determine the wealth, your wealth. All right. So we've got your health score. We've got your net wealth section. There's milestones. So I've developed milestones that you need to accomplish in order to move on to the next level. I've got basic cash flow, spending summary. There's some wealth reports, financial freedom. If you don't know where you are, you will never know where you're going to get. So at least if you've got a GPS, it tells you, okay, I'm at this point. I need to get to that point, and I need to know exactly what the direction is to get there. And then I've got financial protection. So financial milestones, it's just basically tick boxes. So write down your dreams, goals, and have a vision board. I think that's very important. Pay yourself first, 10%. If you've accomplished that, then you just tick it. And then it moves down to different levels. So level 1 would be like a financial danger zone. That's where you just started your job. You've got no assets. Basically, you're living paycheck to paycheck. If something happens in your life, it's going to be a disaster, because if you lose that job, you've got huge problems. So I call that the danger zone. Level 2 is financial security. So you've got to clear your personal debt. Level 3, financial stability. So that's where you're at absolute zero. You've got no debt. That's when you start to build a cash safety net. Level 4, passive income, covers your security needs. And then level 5, it just gets deeper and deeper, the more wealthier you get financially. In the quick cash flow section, you can dive down quickly into what your income and expenses are, ranging from different categories. We've got, if you want to go even deeper, then you can move on to a monthly one. I've got all your debt summaries, credit cards, vehicles, other personal loans like overdrafts and that type of stuff. These are all calculated automatically. So if you change 2,000, you click calculate, then you'll pay 426 a month. Financial protection. Okay, so this is where now the important stuff comes. Do you have a will and testament? Really important. Do you have life insurance? If you've got property, you should have life insurance. Income protection on disability, critical illness, and then building insurance. Do you have building insurance on all your properties? If you got that, you enter the insurance company, insurance telephone numbers, all the details, and the cover amount, and when it was last updated. Very important to update keep your stuff updated. Content insurance, motor, and all that type of stuff. Property investments. I've now split it between your residential house. So because your residential house, okay, there's always an argument. Is your house an asset or is it a liability? In my experience, it is a liability. Your holiday home is a liability. But if you got any rental properties, those are all considered assets. Now I just quickly put in some figures here, because all of this comes back to the dashboard, and it will tell you what your wealth is. I've got the debt crusher system. A little bit of history on this one. When my oldest son was 6 months old, so I've been debt free about 7.5 years personally. I'm 42 years old, so paying off the debt and stuff like that was really important for me to give, to make sure that my financial future was basically guaranteed. If I had no personal debt, I could move all that money that I save on the debt into generating assets, that are real assets. So I developed not developed. I went around on the internet, looked for a whole bunch of systems that can basically crush your debt or pay off your debts as quick as possible. I did come across one that is not, you cannot find the system if you don't look deep. And I've implemented that into my system. So I paid off all my debt. I think it was almost R1 million within 3 years and 6 months. My results are not typical. I must say that I was focused like hell. I did not spend money on anything unless the debt was paid off. So that was cars, houses, whatever. Paid off 3 months, 3 years and 6 months. So my oldest son was 6 months old when I was financially, well, at least debt free. And then I've got a freedom calculator that we'll get into on another day. And then I will go into, I've also included crypto. I'm quite heavy into crypto. So I thought, okay, well, if crypto is going to be the future, it will be important that I keep track of that stuff. So I've got crypto in this system also, and it's automatically. You can refresh the data. There it was $33,000 for a Bitcoin, and then today it should be around 50 something thousand, 56,000. So all this stuff I put into the system so that I don't have to go and spend time calculating and all. I need to keep track. I'm busy with other stuff. I need to keep track of my finances, my wealth, whatever, and it must be like at a push of a button. Second, and this is my creme de la creme system, is the real estate analysis. So this one I designed many years ago. I started this in 2004, and I've been using this myself. I bought my first 6 properties without going to the bank and without using my own money. Okay, only deposits and stuff like that. But if you know how to do the things and the info is available, but you're going to have to pay some money to get this info. And so I thought, okay, well, if there are systems available with other real estate property investors, and they've got these systems available, I need to know how this thing works. It's not that I don't trust them. It's just if I'm going to figure out, or if I'm going to be wealthy, I need to know the good and the bad. And that, if you want to consider yourself a master, you need to know what is the good side, what is the bad side, and then you make a decision, and you make a calculated decision on the systems that you use. So in this system, it is only for property. You enter in all your details. You can dive down as deep as you want to. There's just the basic stuff. So like for interest rate, you can put in today's interest rate, but if you want to go back and you want to do over a period or over many years, then you can do that. It will work out all the calculations. And then in the end, you want to know what's the investment analysis. So if I go to open, let's do this one. I want to just show you an example. Okay, so it will load all the property details. Just takes a sec. Okay, so it's populated all the details, and you can change it wherever you want to. You can, whatever you need to change, like tax options, if those things change every year. You got your tax tables, you can change that. Doesn't matter what country you're in. If you select the country in the United States and move it over to Australia, then it will change the tax tables according to the country, and you can update every year. So at the end of the day, you want to know what the results are before you buy it, because when you make your money, you make your money when you buy and not when you sell, especially with real estate investments and not flipping of properties. So these are the results. It gives me my cash flow, it gives me my return, and then I can check whatever the if I want to dive deeper into the results. And at the end of the day, you can print out the report, and this you can send to your investors or the bank or whoever needs to know the financial details. And there you have it, Scott. Your global property system and IPS index is also in here. And that's a quick rundown.
Awesome, really. Listen, I fully acknowledge that tonight I'm rushing both you and Shane, and I'm literally wanting to just shine a light on what's coming. So what Rudy and I have agreed, along with Shane and Lee, is that we're looking to make this available in a beta format. It is going to be an Excel file to start off with, but with time and the deal that we've done with Rudy is that we're actually going to build this dynamically into the Wealth University and ultimately our platform. And why that becomes really exciting is that I've had these calculators before. You know, I've owned Hannes' one, I've owned Dolph de Roos's one, and it's quite useful to be able to go and do the calculations. But the part that I think we're missing is ultimately the smart investing. And what I mean by the smart investing, imagine if you could do Richard Neff's PDD test so that it tells you what are your driving dynamics. Now that's that's endorsed by Deloitte's worldwide, and like high risk, low risk, your lifestyle, you know, etc. Then you plug in Rudy, 2 different calculators, both the Wealth Pro and the real estate analysis. With time, we'll bring out other versions of it, and it all functions and it's ongoing, and it starts to provide you with the ability to do smart investing. Now, do you think that that might be quite powerful for your life? And what my suggestion is, Lee, if you don't mind, is I'd like to chuck up, and I'm just going to give people the link quickly, is that the only way to get more information on this is to sign up to the launch of the Wealth University, because we're going to be sharing with people not only how they can get access to the Wealth University, but also how they can get access to these calculators. Now, again, what we've agreed with Rudy is that the beta version will be an Excel file. We've actually paid some money to make sure that it'll be password protected and all that. But to be honest, that's merely a beta version. The real dream, as we've said, is to build it all into the platform and into the apps and truly make it smart investing, which is what our dream has always been, to put smart investing in every single person's pocket. So I'd love to know, would you like us to notify you as soon as the Wealth University 5.0 opens? You know, please let us know. I'm fascinated as to whether you are as excited by this. Lee, I know that you haven't seen this before. While you've got these polls up, what for our investors?
Sorry, Scott, I had a complete meltdown. I got the, hi, Lee, I know you haven't, and then I heard investors. So I am assuming you want to know what I think about this, having seen it for the first time tonight, because it has been the best kept secret amongst our team. We have not been allowed sneak peeks even ourselves. So we are seeing it for the first time. And it is amazing. It's exciting, having been involved in the previous Wealth University and seeing where this is going. It really is exciting, especially on the engagement level and being able to really communicate and connect with people who are like-minded and at the same stage as you, but also actually having a path mapped out for you. You're not just getting reports and wondering what the heck to do with this now and trying to figure it out yourself. You're actually getting a plan. And that for me is the most exciting part, because as I've said to you previously, Scott, I have done all the tests and everything that's there, but once you get that Amazon rainforest of sheets that comes out, that is really valuable, but to actually take action on it is the problem. So that is very exciting. I have definitely registered. I want to know when this launches and how we can do it. So if you're online, register. There's nothing that you can lose other than to be invited to the launch of something that's really exciting and new.
No, awesome. And Lee, I'd love you to put up the next poll, which is just how much people think that it should be worth. You know, I again have paid for these calculators. I think the most I paid for a calculator was about $5,000 a couple of years ago in the US. And so I certainly know what these things are worth. And but what I think is really important actually for someone is that I don't think the calculator is that valuable, and be very careful that you listen to my wording. I don't think the calculator is that valuable if you see it as a photograph. but I think it's priceless if you see it as a movie. And so what I mean by that is that if you want to retire and you use the calculator as a movie where it's truly is smart investing and it's helping you make the right investments and it's part of your flight path, your flight plan. Hopefully you're starting to see how this has all come together with the 8 steps. And every decision you're making is, are we on track? Are we off track? You will start to see, because the very next step is get started. Okay. Like everyone has to get started at some point. And then step number 6 is track your progress. So if you're flying again from Sydney to London, what most people don't know is that an airplane consistently goes off track. Okay. And whether it's the pilot or the systems, they keep bringing the airplane back on track. And rather than ending up in Moscow, it ends up in London, and that's what you need to do to track your progress. And so when I ask the question, how valuable is this to you? For me, if you're looking at it as an expense where, it's a once-off payment and you're just seeing it as a photograph, then personally, in my opinion, it's not worth that much money. But if you're seeing it as a movie, then it's a game changer. It truly is a game changer. And that's where what I got excited with Rudy and Shane was to say, okay, listen, Rudy, what you've built here is incredible. Shane, what you've built here is incredible. We need to bring this all together and we need to give people a life journey where they can truly make smart investing part of the process and have this tracking ability. And then once all the platforms are integrated, all that information will be populating through and you'll be able to read it off dashboards like this to see exactly where you're going. So I don't know if everyone else is as excited as I am, but then I'd pay for individual coaching, but some people don't necessarily want to pay for one-to-one coaching. But why do you do coaching? Because of accountability. And so there's 2 ways to create accountability. The first way to create accountability is that you have the systems and you actually see, are you on track, are you off track? Because literally, what you measure is what you focus on. And the second one, is following the laws of nature. And what that is people actually working together. And so in community, and remember what I told you earlier about Deepak Chakra, if you're in a group of people that are committed to achieving the same goal, I know Greg is online here and he, and Wilson does this very effectively. You've got a group of people working together, holding each other to account, then success, you're higher than a 70% chance of success versus trying to do it on your own. And so hopefully now you're starting to see how all the different pieces of the puzzle come together. And I think this is really, really quite important. And then the last step is celebrate and have fun. I'm a big believer in living life to the full. And one thing I learned from Hunter Strayer, and I really respect him for this, is that a lot of people, even Rudy, you said, and I really respect what you did there, knocked out your debt in 3 years. But what I learned from Hunter is that if you've got a surplus of about $400, and you need to split it up between your interest, your capital, and your fund. And you take $133, one third, and you're paying off your interest, which is what Rudy's just shown you. You're having fun along the way. You're enjoying your life, but you're also putting money away in terms of a capital investment. And ultimately, that sets up your passive income, and your passive income keeps coming back into creating more surplus, and it becomes a virtuous cycle. I don't believe that there's any point in living your whole life to retire at 65 and then start having fun. I fundamentally believe that you need to find the balance. And, I talk a lot about this in the micro degree. So now we come back to Wealth 5.0. You can start to see how this truly now becomes a reality. What is the impact you want to have on the world? How are you're going to be creative and add value? How can you have high touch and collaborate with a lot of other people? How can you use tech to your advantage? And ultimately, how can you problem solve and future-proof? And hopefully what we've shown you today with smart investing is all about solving our individual problems and future-proofing. To remind you again, the 6 things that people need. The first 2 steps are belief and knowledge. Everything that Shane has shared with you tonight around the WealthE University is solving those 2 things. It's giving people belief and it's giving them knowledge. Then they need access and investment, and they need a system. And what I've shared with you tonight, showing you the WealthE Migrate platform, is the access and the investment. And what Rudy's shown you tonight is the system, where you can ultimately calculate not only where you are, but where you want to get to and start having smart investing. I've also shared with you how you can have support and accountability, whether it's at a one-to-one coaching level or whether it's at a community level. And if you follow those 5 steps, results is just a matter of time. It's literally a formula. And that's why I believe it's so important. And maybe, hopefully, even for our own team, they're starting to see how this is all coming together now and how powerful this is, hopefully for our shareholders as well. So when we go back to the Wealth University, we'll be reintroducing things like our starter pack. You can go in and link, on the link below to go and find out all about it, where people will be able to start investing, from $100 going. If you're wanting to invest on the platform, speak to our wealth consultants. I know Fritz and Alex are both online, and I'm really grateful to Fritz for bringing Rudy along and actually introducing him. Because without Fritz, Rudy wouldn't have been here to be able to share with our community this wonderful calculator that we've got in making smart investing a reality. And then, the next steps, if you're wanting to talk to one of our wealth consultants, I highly recommend doing an investor strategy form, booking an appointment. Your time is valuable, their time is valuable. The more you share what you're looking to achieve, the more they can turn up prepared to a call, basically. And then, equally, you can go on the platform, you can check out the deals and actually go and invest, basically. And then finally, reminding you again of the community and the inner circle. What's it all about? Well, it's about community, it's about education, it's about investment, and it's about purpose. And again, hopefully you can see all of it coming together. So to remind you again, if you are interested, go to that link, online.wealthuniversity.org. I think I want to share with you a gift. And Shane, if you're still there, I'd love you to come back on quickly because I need your help. So Shane had a wonderful idea. And this idea was that there's a gentleman in America that's one of the top internet marketers in the world. And he has a digital course that Shane has been very luckily been invited to. Shane, if you're there, please come back because I need your help. And I can't remember the gentleman's name even. And what he's basically done is he's helping people show how to really launch within the digital environment. Now, as I said to you, I was with John Robbie today. Highly, highly successful business people since COVID are now really trying to figure out how to join the digital world. How do you do a digital launch? How do you add value digitally without the face-to-face component, especially when people are completely zoomed out? And an idea you had, Shane, which I think is really interesting, is for those people, and we haven't agreed exactly how many yet, but those people that sign up to the Wealth University in the first phase, and again, Wealth University 5.0, are actually going to watch as we work as a team, going through the entire launch, working with Rudy, getting the whole launch out, so that they're not only getting the benefits of the Wealth University, but they're getting early access. And that's why I love the inner circle, getting early access to watch you and the team work in terms of an entire launch. And I'd love, Shane, it was your idea, so I'm taking no credit for it. I'd love you to share your own idea, and it's a gift to our community. We would not normally kind of open up the curtains as to how we do this, but you thought that it would be a really valuable insight for people, not only for the Wealth University, but more importantly for them in their own lives and their own businesses.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. So the idea is, and it's not for everyone. So this is going to be for a very small, exclusive group of people. And the idea is to be able to allow this group to kind of look over our shoulder and see how we put this all together. So how we build out the entire platform, how we launch it profitably, how we go through the launch strategy, how we're going to create our core offers, create our messaging around our campaigns and around our product, and also our success path. So we've got a goal that we're going to set, and how we're going to reach that goal and beyond. And then eventually, how do we turn the evergreen machine on? So people that are going to be part of this group, we'll also have a private brainstorming community where if you've got your own business, you can also interact with the people in this community and say, maybe there's synergies between your different businesses. So a nice way to be able to start new business and relationships with other people that are like-minded. And then obviously we'll have Q&A calls that we'll do to kind of cover, to like fill any gaps as we go through the process. So yeah, just and obviously you'll get access to the entire system and the calculators and all the rest. So yeah, just it's something exciting to look forward to.
So just if you are interested, either reach out to me personally or to Lee personally, and or sign up to the Wealth, the link that we've said, the early access. We will be sending out the details. Shane and I are actually spending 2 days next week to work through the dynamics of it. We have spent a couple of $1,000s already, and Shane has worked for many years with some of the best in the industry in America, and we've actually got personal coaching from them in terms of this whole process. So, for us, it's really about, paying that forward and sharing it with others. It's that simple, in terms of that overall process. And I know, Lee, this is probably the first time it's coming to your ears in terms of this process, but I just loved the idea from Shane when he mentioned it. I was like, well, why should we keep this all in-house when we can add value to our community and show them how we're doing it? And what I love about it is that, people can actually get a win-win, because not only will they get access to all the Wealth University material and all the new material we'll bring out, plus the calculators, but they'll actually get to be able to watch how the Wealth University team does it live.
Yeah, I think that's very exciting. It's like learn as you go and actually see how things are created. It's like being the gardener, I suppose, and watching the seed grow into the flowers. It's going to be very exciting. I sit in meetings with Shane and listen to him speak, and the passion is definitely there, and it definitely flies over my head. So it's going to be interesting to watch him tinker away, and Rudy as well, and see how this is all put together. So I am very excited at that aspect as well.
Excellent. So, I think really for tonight, Eric, I saw that you said this will replace all your spreadsheets. I'm just so excited, because for me, it feels like a dream coming true. And what I mean by that, and we're not there yet, I want to be very clear, we are not there yet, but we're a hell of a lot closer than we were a year ago. And what I mean by that is, if you think about it, you've got the Wealth University that's kind of been sitting on its own. You've got Wealth Migrate, which is the investment platform, sitting on its own. We've all got our own calculators over there sitting on our own, or spreadsheets, as Eric said. And again, I'm assuming people have spreadsheets. Some people just have, they keep it in their head. And now we're looking to bring it all together. And you've probably heard me say it so often on webinars. We want to put smart investing in every single person's pocket. I've been talking to Richard Neft for probably 10 years. How can we integrate his stuff? Lee's been talking to James and Alex Painter around how can we had a meeting just 2 weeks ago, how we continue to integrate all their currency stuff so that people can make intelligent decisions. It's all starting to come together, and hopefully people are starting to see now how the different pieces of the puzzle come together. So if you are looking to get started, go along and sign up to that Wealth University link. If you want to go to the platform directly and reach out to one of our wealth consultants, I remind you that today is Wealthy Wednesday. You can invest from $97 in a deal. You can really now truly start your journey to investing globally, whether you are an infant or you're in your golden legacy years. What we're doing is putting together a personalized path to help people through that journey. And for me, about becoming a global citizen, it's not only about getting, but also about giving. And the whole concept of the Wealth University and building communities together is actually, I look forward to a future where we're copying what we learned in China, which is where you got these small communities of people coming, mentor masterminds that are being led by, maybe even volunteer-led mentors that are driving people forward in these investor circles, mentor circles, etc. And really what tonight is, some of you should remember the 7th of April, because for those of you who've been on this live, you're the first that's ever seen this. Lee hasn't seen this, by the way. Neither's Alex, neither's Fritz, and a number of people who are online from our team. And hopefully you're starting to see how all the pieces of the puzzle are coming together. And that's not for our egos. That's to add value to you. If we want to empower 1 billion people, there's only one way we're going to do it. And that's by empowering and adding value to each individual, one person at a time. And those 6 simple steps: belief, knowledge, accessibility, system, accountability, and ultimately wealth and freedom. The entire bucket needs to be solved, and each step of that process needs to be solved so that you truly can create the financial wealth you want in your life. So, Lee, that's all from me. I know it was a lot of information. I know that we covered, I think there were at least 5 different webinars that we've actually done on all those material tonight. So I apologize if we've overwhelmed people. I would love feedback. I know that Shane and Rudy would love feedback. We would love feedback around what you've seen tonight. And we're truly excited about where we're going. As you can see, it's got rough edges, but this is a big diamond that is being shared tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Scott, and to Rudy and to Shane for joining me tonight for our April Wealthy Wednesday. It is very exciting. They have kept this a secret from all of us. So I am just bubbling with excitement right now onto what's going to happen. So we will let you know as soon as we get a launch date so that you can partake in this. As always, please feel free to share this with anyone that you feel could gain value from this. And we look forward to sharing with you again in May with our next Wealthy Wednesday. So thank you, everybody, for spending the last hour and 20 minutes with us. We know that your time is valuable, and we do appreciate that you chose to spend it with us. And we look forward to sharing more information in the coming weeks. Recordings will be posted via email and also on all the WhatsApp, Telegram, and Facebook groups that we have tomorrow. Please feel free to share those as well. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Good night. Be blessed.
Awesome. Good night, everyone.